Mark Takano and I know our way to San Jose. We are in San Jose at the California Democratic Party convention, and we are joined, of course, by Mr. Takano. He is a member of the United States Congress. I'm Brad Pomerance, and I must ask you, sir, what made you decide to come from Washington, D.C. and make the trip to San Jose?
Well, it's always, to me, you and I have a long history. We were active in, our younger days.
Sure.
Way back in the day.
Way back when, of course.
And it's always good to reconnect with people like John Perez.
Right,
and,
former speaker.
The guy that's moved on to the California Medical Association.
Jay Hansen.
Jay Hansen.
Right.
And
a lot of old friends.
And just to see people who've moved on to bigger and better things.
So talk to me about the party in the 1990s and the party in the 2010s.
Well, there's a big sense to, in the 90s we were just coming off of the Reagan years.
Right.
In the middle of the Clinton years, this transition to a democratic California. Who would have thought that California would emerge? I remember running for Congress in 1994.
Right.
And facing Prop 187.
Right.
And it looked very, very grim then. But Prop 187 really set the stage for California being a democratic blue state, I think.
And so let's talk about that state being so blue. Here we are at the California Democratic Party convention. For argument's sake, we're going to presume for our conversation that Mrs. Clinton is the Democratic nominee,
sure.
Mr. Trump is the Republican nominee.
Yes.
How does that play in California? What does that do to the top of the ticket as well as down ballot races?
I think it does a lot. I think Californians, when they know what's at stake, whether it's immigration rights, whether it's labor and environmental law, whether it's people who care about global climate change. Why am I saying all this? Because what's at stake is the Supreme Court.
Right.
There are so many cases before the Supreme Court. President Obama's clean air, his global warming agenda has been stymied at the Supreme Court.
Immigration agenda.
LGBT equality could be turned back. And we're all breathing a sigh of relief that the California Teachers Association in the Friedrichs case. That case was going to be decided.
This is a case that would require union membership not to be based upon compensation or payment, I should say.
Well, it would have made it harder for unions to be able to say, if you benefit from union representation, if you benefit from a union representing you in a job dispute, you should be responsible for paying agency fees. And this would have said, no, that's no longer a requirement of being a part of a bargaining unit, which would have really eviscerated the ability of unions to represent working men and women. So
it begs the question.
Yes.
We had the tragic death of Antonin Scalia, unexpected, and now we have this arguably 4-4 split, although, look, Chief Justice Roberts has come out on, quote, the left of center side, as is Anthony Kennedy. Yes. There's a lot of angst about whether Mr. Obama should be appointing a nominee in his last year of his term.
Look, we went through in previous presidencies a democratically controlled Senate, voted against Justice Bork, but after giving him a hearing.
Right.
The Republicans are refusing even a hearing.
Right.
They're afraid that the president's going to appoint somebody likable by the American public, somebody who they believe is going to be fair. What's at stake here, and the Republicans know it, is a very, very broad array of public policy issues that are going to be decided by this court.
What I found interesting, and what I continue to find interesting, without taking a position, of course, is that when former presidential candidate Jeb Bush was asked, would you appoint if you were president, he said he would. And so there are some cracks. You have Senator Mark Kirk from Illinois suggesting that there should be a nomination. Susan Collins from Maine.
It's really important for us to keep the pressure on, to keep letting the public know that what's at stake, because I do believe that these little cracks will become much bigger fissures, and we need to have an open and honest hearing. We need a hearing at least, and an up or down vote.
But let me ask you, it's kind of interesting. I ask you kind of as a student of politics, as a professor yourself. could the Republicans not have said, okay, give us your nominee and then vote down?
That's exactly my point.
Yeah.
My point is that's what happened with Justice Bork.
Right, with the Democrats.
With Mr. Bork. I don't know if he was a judge before.
Yeah, he
probably was. He was a judge.
Yeah.
But they gave him a hearing, they voted, and then the president submitted another name.
And what's interesting about that nomination, I believe, was that the nomination that ultimately led to Justice Kennedy?
There were nominations by George W. Bush that were rejected by the Republicans in control, and he had to submit a few other names. Now, that's the give and take of this process.
Is there anything you, as a member of the House of Representatives, can you do anything about this scenario?
Well, I took to the floor yesterday and gave a speech on this very topic, a 1-minute speech. And I won't say it's going viral, but it is getting some traction. People are sharing it. So if every representative in Congress would go to the floor and let their sentiments be known to their own constituents, the 180 so of us who are Democrats in the House certainly have that opportunity to do so.
So let me ask you about those 180. Do you think those 180 could break 200 based upon the controversy?
Oh, that's a good question, Brad, because you know what? Redistricting cases, cases that have to do with voting rights. The Voting Rights Act has basically been compromised under the last court.
Well, there's the
voter
Evanwell case out of Texas, which would redefine who a voter is for voting purposes.
This has all been agendized by the Federalist Society. The right wing has definitely used the judiciary to position themselves when they can't do it legislatively, do it through the courts. So the quickest, shortest route, by the way, the campaign finance reform, which we couple with Voting Rights Act, which we couple with redistricting cases. This will set the stage for free and fair districts across the country.
But do you believe that people will vote on this issue, that because presuming the Republicans continue to preclude a nomination, will that become an overriding issue?
I think the polling is looking very bad in these swing states for Republicans, swing state that have the Senate, which could determine the Senate. The more Democrats make it clear, the more we can make this more we can get a language that we can clarify for the voter what's at stake. I think they will vote on this.
What about the question of LGBT rights? Because we know that the Republican candidates have made it very clear that they are looking to have the marriage equality case reversed by the U.S. Supreme Court.
They make no bones about it. You're absolutely right. I do believe that LGBT gains could be at stake. They could be chipped away at. That won't come necessarily, it would be too brazen to do it all at once, but I wouldn't put anything past these extreme conservative Republicans. I think it could be very well the case that they chip away, and they might even be brazen.
Now, in some states, LGBT voting blocks could be pivotal. Will the LGBT community come out and vote? You think about states like Florida.
Well, we already know they came out.
Well stated. But you know what I'm getting at. I mean, a state like Florida, a strong LGBT vote could be the difference.
It could be the difference, and the LGBT community as well. There are so many communities for whom the court makes critical decisions. The LGBT community, the Hispanic community, the Asian American community, women, the women's right to choose is at stake here. When people understand, the reasonable, everyday things that are at stake. Look, I was sitting in the court listening to the Obergefell case being
the marriage equality
what
case.
Amazing thing that was to sit before the court. And
Historic.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a brilliant intellect. She's still top-tier, but you know what? Her voice was just a little bit feeble. She fell asleep in the Congress, and I was thinking, gosh, this court majority is
You'll
really
come back? You'll come back?
I'll come back.
He is Mark Takano, member of the U.S. Congress. I'm Brad Pomerance, the California Democratic Party Convention. This is Charter Local Edition.